Don't touch my.
Welcome to this week's episode of Whoscussion. I'm your host, that random guy from Fano, and joining us again is the wonderful, the key-bladed Harriet Skelly.
H. Skelly.
Oh, H. Skelly even. Woo. So today on the plate for part A, we are doing, oh wow, it's just slipped my mind. We're doing the Faceless.
The Macra Terror.
Oh, there it is.
Faceless
I know why it slipped my mind, because I tried to delete it. So, so we're doing the Macra Terror and the Faceless ones, and then part B is Scherzo? Scherzo? Scherzo. Hang on. I'm pretty certain there's a way to pronounce this, because it's an actual word, which means, let's look this up, it means, what? Introduced as a replacement to the word minute. Oh, wow, that's amazing. It's the old word for minute.
Mm-hmm. Or, in Western classical music, it is a piece of Western classical music as well.
This is a double entendre! So when we get to that story, we're totally going to explain why it's called Scherzo, because that totally makes sense. Its two definitions make 100% perfect sense.
Although there's a whole bunch of other meanings for it as well. Let's not go into that just yet.
Yes, let's not go into that. So anyway, let's start off part A with the Macra Terror. Harry Skelly, I'm going to have to get you to go first, man.
Oh, the Macra Terror. I actually enjoyed this one. The main thing that really, really weirded me out about this one was the fan animation, actually.
You did watch it. That's what I watched too.
I watched some of it, and I watched the first episode of it, and I'm just like, oh my god, what did you do?
It's just paint.
It's just
Windows Paint.
It's Windows Paint, but in the worst way. Like, oh, and the first person that they meet, when they finally land and they meet the crazy guy Murdoch, who's the first person.
Yeah.
The first person who knows about the Macra, and just the expression that they gave to him that he just had through the rest of the episode, where he's got nothing going on with his eyes. They're just wide open at all times, and he just looks like he's in this constant state of seeing someone undressing. Like that's it's ridiculous, and it's like to the point where he goes on, gets unconscious, and then the moment he wakes up, he's just wide-eyed again. It's just like there's no in between with him. He's just completely and utterly surprised at all times. But yeah, that's just the animation. So let's not spend all our time.
I've got to admit though, they timed it up to the audio very, very well.
They did. They actually did a pretty good job when it came to like lip syncing, all that sort of stuff. It was basically looked like they had some poor artists. But they had someone who knew what they were doing when they put it together, which is more than we can say about a lot of things most days.
Just BBC, if you could just make a proper professional animation and have it as a DVD extra, I would be happy.
Yeah, because that was amazing. Anyway, the Macra. This is it's an interesting episode. You can really draw some parallels with the ideas that we see nowadays when it comes to indoctrination.
Yeah.
And the Illuminati, that sort of deal.
And the fact that they listened to essentially TV. Yeah,
where a face appears on the TV. Who's the controller. I don't know whether the intention was that that face was actually the real person at some point. Because the fact is, like, when you see it later on, when I was watching it without the animation, of course,
yes.
you see this just perfectly still face on the screen, and I'm like, that would really raise some red flags with me immediately.
Yeah, why can't I see his mouth move?
Yeah, why is he not? Why is this person not talking? Like, if this is an actual person, what's the deal here? And also, like that whole feel about it, that there was someone outside of their colony that was controlling everything that they did, and they knew for a fact that he was just like a couple of kilometers away, or not even that far away, just in a restricted area. That really raises red flags. Like, I imagine any human being would think, hang on a moment, why is there a separate part of government that's being housed outside
Yeah.
of our environment? That's very like V for Vendetta,
Exactly.
Feral
This
Faceless
is
sort of deal.
I wonder if Alan Moore watched this when he wrote V. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he remembered it from when he
Yeah.
was a kid and was just like, bro, remember that show Doctor Who?
Remember the Macra Terror? Whoa. Yeah, actually, because it has that very same feel to it, except instead of it being humans,
And the
controlling
War Doctor.
humans and the War Doctor. Oh man, yes. Instead of it being the War. Okay. Ooh. Anyway.
We just got meta!
No. Oh no. Instead of it being that, it's some crab people.
Yep.
Crab people. That would actually be even more hilarious if anyone's watched the South Park episode of that. Anyway, we don't see the Macra again, pretty much, until we see their less evolved forms, isn't it? I don't think we see them again, which is kind of sad because they're kind of a really interesting and hilarious sort of species, really, when it comes down to it.
What's interesting is their less evolved form is further in human history.
Yeah, well, that's it. Is that they basically, it seems that they came to the New Earth, and hid in the highway system because there was gas at the bottom, which is what
Macra eat.
Yeah, which is what they were trying to eat. So it's kind of actually a good play on good old T. Davies, by putting them in there and having them be the pseudo villain in that case. Yeah, they're in the gas, because it actually makes sense that they were there. But I mean, it makes sense that they went there and then devolved over time because they basically stuck themselves at the bottom of a well. But it's just
they couldn't control anybody either. So
yeah, they were literally unable to control them. But I mean, it's also possible even that the Macra came to Earth and the Earth was okay with that. The New Earth saw the ship coming in. They called them like, "Hey, Macra, what's the deal here?" And Macra were like, "Well, we actually just need some gas. So if you could just like put us like at the bottom of something and we would just like chill there." And I imagine Earth would have been okay with that.
yeah, I think you're right. I think that's probably how they ended up down there in the first place, because Earth was like, "Hey, we remember when you controlled the colony in the Macra Terror in 1966," and and they were just like, "Did you just quote an episode name? Never mind that." And they probably just lived down there. I think you're on the mark there. I think that because the New Earth government. And that draws more parallels to the Macra Terror because everybody listens to TV in in Gridlock as well. Holy crap! You just blew my mind.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing is like it's two sides of the same sort of sci-fi future idea set. Is that we will either allow ourselves to be controlled to the point of being enslaved to one person, or in the what's the episode called for the new Macra?
Gridlock.
Gridlock. In Gridlock, humans had become slaves to their own pleasure.
Yeah.
They were creating drugs to become to get more and more pleasure out of their lives. And on the flip side of the whole idea is that you either get controlled beyond controlled by someone outside, or you're controlled by your own emotions and your own pleasure and desires. I guess it's kind of amazing that Russell T Davies did that. I hope it was not on accident. Honestly,
no way. He really did write this episode.
Yeah. I really hope that he did that on purpose, because that really brings more light to him. Is that he saw what the original Macra Terror was about and decided to do the flip side of that and have the Macra appear in it as well.
Yeah. Wow, that's holy crap. You've given so much more depth to the Macra and to Russell T Davies than I thought possible in one episode of Whoscussion. That's amazing. And I really echo what Harriet Scully said there, is this is so Orwellian, this story. Very 1984. And the Macra are not only the thought police, they are the thought inducers.
Yeah.
They control how you think.
Yeah.
And I really wish they explained how Maddox was able to break the cycle. Because I don't think they ever explained that. Is it just because he went insane? Is that how? Because his sanity snapped?
Well, I think what it was in the beginning is that he saw them, and then it seems like there was a several amount of people who had seen the Macra.
Oh, that's right, and they get reconditioned to unsee them. That's it.
But Maddox was capable of getting out of that reconditioning and continuing to stay away long enough that it slowly became more and more clear to him, I guess.
I think that's very, very true. Man, Harry, you always are able to make me see the bigger picture here. I love Whoscussion for one of that simple fact that Harriet Scully makes Classic Who even better than it already is.
I'd also like to draw a parallel to an old... what was it called? It was... They Live? Was it the old movie?
Oh, the one that Duke Nukem's based on. The character of Duke Nukem is based on.
Yeah, one that the character of Duke Nukem is based on. They Live, a 1988 movie about basically one of the WWE's greatest, who finds some basically some magic sunglasses that allow him to see through a disguise that aliens were putting on themselves to make them appear human, and were effectively controlling the human race by appearing as human and controlling the media and like putting billboards and stuff. But they'd managed to get some sort of, there was a rebellion going on where they managed to subvert that hypnotherapy basically by putting on these sunglasses, which allowed them to basically see the alien's true form first off, and then see subliminal messaging. So, like, you would see a billboard that would have, like, some advertisement on it. And then when he put the sunglasses on, he would see things like obey or that sort of stuff. So it's very reminiscent of that, too. But it's in a different way, of course. I mean, it's not.
And that draws back again to what you reflected in Gridlocked, is that the media, and there seems to be a science fiction staple here, that we need to not rely on the media, which is hilarious because Doctor Who is a medium in which we digest information. So that's quite interesting. So there's a lot of Orwellian themes. Though I must say I agree with you that Alan Moore's V for Vendetta seems to feel a bit more like the Macra Terror than George Orwell's 1984. Yeah,
definitely. The Macra Terror, the Orwellian sort of deal was sort of it was more what's the word? It's more military, I guess.
Yeah.
Where it was like real uniform about it, but the way that this Macra Terror and V for Vendetta is that it's just a fascist government rather than a whole society based on that. Yeah, it's sort of like Orwellian would have been how V for Vendetta ended up if V never rebelled, and how the Macra society would have ended up if the Doctor never showed up. Is that it would have eventually become the Orwellian society if it just pushed a little bit further.
I definitely suggest, even though it doesn't exist and the fan animation isn't the best, I definitely suggest people out there listen to Whoscussion, go ahead and definitely listen to the Macra Terror. I believe Big Finish have recut it so it's more like an audiobook. So if you can, grab a hold of that variant of it, because it is a very, very, very good a story, and I believe the narration is done by Fraser Hines. Played Jamie. If you can find that, I definitely suggest that, because it is a good story. There's a lot going on here, and there's one thing before we move on to the Faceless ones. There's one thing I want to point out. Technology had gotten to a point where you didn't need to exercise anymore.
Yeah, they put you in a machine that made you exercise.
You didn't need to shower anymore or wash your clothes because they put you in a machine that did that as well.
Oh, that yeah, I actually want to point that out as well. That when Jamie gets his makeover as well, he gets this awesome outfit. Oh, that's great. And when the Doctor gets his clothes remade up, and he gives the full clean basically, and then he's like, you know what? I don't actually like being clean. Goes into the exercise machine and gets roughed up before coming out again.
And I love it how he puts it in a setting that would kill a human. They're like,
Yeah.
my God, he'll die! And then he walks out because he's a Time Lord. He's like, man, whatever. And they're like, how is this guy even alive? But one final point before we move on to the Faceless ones is Ben's overt sexism.
Oh man!
When Jamie is being taken away to be massaged by this woman, Jamie is uncomfortable because he's from a time period where men and women didn't act in this fashion. Yeah. And so Ben goes, "Oh, if it was me, mate, I wouldn't be turning it down." Yeah. And I'm just like, "Oh my God, Ben."
Well, Ben's just like Ben is sort of the the faucet for bigotry in this at the moment, because the previous episodes is talking about Polly speaking foreign.
Yeah, Polly speaking foreign. Just him always thinking that Polly is just a duchess as well, even though Polly is a scientist, I might add, and B, she is really strong-willed and she's not screaming. In fact, the only time I think she's ever screamed was in Moonbase.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I think I'd be pooing my pants a little bit if I saw a Cyberman walk out and I'm the only person in the room. I'd be like, what do I do in this situation? I'm going to poo my pants.
In fact, that's actually a good point, and we can use that to move into the Faceless ones, where Polly even sees a man get shot and killed in front of her, and she doesn't scream. In fact, she stays hidden and is well composed.
She turns herself into a sleuth.
Yeah. She goes full on Second Doctor on the situation and actually like pays attention and sneaks around. She knows what's going on. That one.
Yeah, and that really saddens me because spoiler alert here, people, for a 50-year-old story. But Ben and Polly leave in the story, and it is not handled well whatsoever.
Not at all.
I'm very, very, very pissed off because these two companions are very well written. They're very, very good characters. And I'm not shitting on Stephen and Dodo. But, to be honest, Stephen and Dodo really didn't need to be in the first Doctor stories. I mean, they didn't do anything except for in the one where they sung and the Toymaker.
They were written in to replace previous companions for the longest time. And then when they finally got their own stories, their stories were to remove them.
Yeah.
That was basically it. So... the way that Ben and Polly were handled was a lot better, where they actually came in pretty much willingly, I guess. And they had their own story to it, and then they were the first ones to be with the Second Doctor. But the fact is, the fact of the matter is that they weren't really that well liked back then.
Really? Did people not like Ben and Polly? Is that why they were kicked off?
They really didn't.
What the hell? They're good characters. What the fuck's wrong with the 60s?
They liked Jamie so much more.
Interesting.
I mean,
because they worked good as a 4-part act.
Yeah, they did. It was a fantastic thing. I guess, mainly, it was Ben. Honestly, I imagine people like
because of the bigotry.
Yeah, I suppose it was the bigotry, but also the fact that he. I don't know. Honestly, it doesn't really say anything here. It just says that they weren't well liked. That their reception was not as good as JMS, but I mean, who can blame?
Well, I know that Scotland really pushed to keep Jamie.
Yeah, that everyone really liked Jamie. Even not Scots liked Jamie. It was a fantastic.
I love Fraser Hines as well, and I've met him in person, so that doesn't muddle it a bit, but kind of does because he's the man. But Fraser Hines as Jamie, I enjoyed, but I think Ben and Polly. They worked, and we haven't gotten to Victoria yet, so I might be proven wrong. It's been a long time since I've watched Victoria's stories, but I don't know. I liked them, and I felt they weren't handled very well. Their exit,
so they definitely could have been handled better.
Yeah, so essentially, this story is they end up in Heathrow Airport, or Hedgewick, Jackwick Airport. There it is. They're in Jackwick Airport, and the Doctor's TARDIS gets taken away from him, so very, very much set up so that he can't use his TARDIS to magic the situation, which I think was a really good move on the people's part, and it made sense as well, because he landed the TARDIS on the runway, which obviously is 100% dangerous, so for them to remove it, it makes sense. It wasn't just randomly removed like in Fires of Pompeii, for instance.
Yeah, it was just randomly moved. Like,
Yeah.
oh, there's a wooden box. I like it.
Yeah, exactly.
12th Doctor, you cut that out.
Yeah. Hey, you still doing that over there, 12th Doctor? I really hope this this isn't really badly explained in some Viking episode. But so so the TARDIS is taken away, and Ben, as Harriet Scully said earlier, Polly witnesses a murder. Ben and Polly go to investigate it, and then they get captured by the murderers, essentially. And it turns out these murderers actually weren't supposed to kill this guy. It was an accident. They didn't handle the situation very well. And they're also face-changing aliens, much like the Zygons.
Yes. Well, kind of. They have the science to basically convert someone else's being onto themselves, I guess. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
Oh, they use these arm things that apparently transferred the physical image.
Yeah, it was just weird that like they also needed that person as well. Like they sort of like which alien was it?
Like the Zygons?
Was it no? I don't think the Zygons.
The Zygons do need the person.
Yeah, the Zygons also did need the person, but there was another race of aliens that did it. I wanted to steer away from the Zygons as much as possible. Yeah, the Zygons. Because of anyway, let's not go into that one.
Well, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, who are the people that they used to copy? Oh, the Autons.
Yeah,
and
the Autons.
Rose.
Yeah.
And Rose, the nesting consciousness.
Yeah, where they needed to keep them there to eventually, well, to just copy their face anyway, to make them rubberized persons. It's just interesting that that's the requirement for them when it seems like it's not a physical thing that they need. So it's not set in their biology that they would do that something happened to their race that caused them to be like this, and they use science to get around it. So it's weird that their science required them to continue having that person exist. Yeah, and the thing is, like, they didn't even need to be still connected to the machine or anything. They just had the person lying around like in the trunk of a car. They just needed to continue being alive.
Yeah,
that kept them together. So I didn't quite grasp it. It seemed very pseudoscience-y for me, but I did like the idea, but of course,
the fail-safe in it though is weird, and I think we're about to bring that up. Sorry, I'll let you go first. Actually,
no.
Okay, so the thing I found very strange in this was the fail-safe is if the host has the bio data removed, so the little thing on the arm removed, it instantly makes the chameleon faceless one explode and die.
Yeah.
What?
That's what I mean. Like, that doesn't really fit. Like, it's like it would be like, how do I? What's the sort of analogy I could go for here? It's basically like having chemotherapy. It's like chemotherapy. Okay. Is that this thing will save your life, but if anything goes wrong, you're dead.
Yeah, I suppose, in a way. And these guys guys and gals rather, are a significantly advanced race. And they've made this. And I'm just like, yeah. And what's interesting with this is they've got a hierarchy. And the higher class ones are a lot more protected from being dead if the host is removed. Yeah.
So something really weird went down with their society. That they were like, sort of. I guess it's very similar to the way that cancer treatment works. So those people, the less affordable ones, get the chemo treatment, and the ones who can pay the big money get whatever else it is.
Yeah, the drugs that help attack it in the same fashion. Yeah. I think definitely that is drawing a lot of parallels to, I suppose, medicine in a way. Odd, Harriet Skelly, how do you do it? So Yeah, and this story's the story I liked, to be honest. There are only 2 surviving episodes. I was really sad that they flogged off Ben and Polly, but this one had something that we haven't seen since the Dark Invasion of Earth, which is on-screen kissing.
Yeah, where Jamie makes out with
Queen Victoria.
His yes, with his love interest for the episode, Queen Victoria.
What's interesting is this character Sarah, which blew my mind, by the way, is she was originally meant to replace Polly, but the actress was like, "There is no way in hell I'm doing this," and good on her, because after this series, she went on to do Upstairs, Downstairs, and that skyrocketed her career. So, so good on her, I suppose.
Good job.
Well done. So she's investigating the Chameleon Airlines industry because she's pretty adamant they've killed or kidnapped her brother. What's interesting is she's 100% on the money, and these chameleons have copied Polly, but funnily enough, not Ben. And they are really bad at covering this up. And apparently they've stolen, 50,000 people, right?
Yeah.
So if they've stolen 50,000 people and there's planes landing that are empty, how does the airport not know that there's an alien invasion?
Because humans are really stupid.
I have to agree, but that detective that appears in the story, what was his name? I can't remember now. He was cool as, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, cool as Inspector guy, who's the man. He turns up and he's like, okay, and he follows Sherlock's. Is it Sherlock? I can't remember. There's some famous police character whose ideology is, if it is the only possible scenario.
That's Sherlock.
If it's the only possible scenario, then it is the truth. And so he's like, "Sweet, there's an alien invasion, Doctor. I need you to prove it to everybody else." And then the Doctor's like, "Wait, what? You believe me?" And he goes, "Yeah, and I'm not crazy. I'm believing you because it's the only possible thing that could be going on right now." And so he helps.
There you go, Sherlock fans. Here's your crossover.
Yeah, here's your crossover. Though, if you do listen to Big Finish, there's been a crossover between Seven and Sherlock. Just throwing that out there. And is it canon? I don't know. Big Finish will explain it. So, this guy helps the Doctor prove to the controller of Gatwick Airport that there's an alien invasion essentially happening underneath his nose. He's not too impressed about it, but he is happy that he's had someone that's not a crazy guy in checkered pants back up this statement. So this guy goes full ruthless and is like, "Sweet, if they're stealing my staff members, I'm going to kill them. How do I kill them, Doctor?" And the Doctor's like, "Oh, just remove these arm things." And he's like, "Sweet, all right, I want you to go up there and threaten them." So he goes up there to this satellite in space, and the Doctor's like, "Hey, look, they're going to brutally murder you if you don't let everybody go." And like, "No, they're not." And then they start brutally murdering them.
You are brutally dead. And they're still like, "It's a ruse."
Yeah, I know, right? What? That is one of
we
the
just killed
things.
one of your guys. What?
And I love how like the controller's like, "So one of you guys is dead? Cool, we're gonna do it again." Like, "That's a ruse. They clearly can't do that." I'm like, dude, you just had physical evidence they're going to do it. Why would you say they're not going to? And so one of them rebels, who is Meadows, and Meadows earlier in the story had been convinced by the Doctor that what they're doing was wrong, and he just listens to the Doctor. Don't really know how. I'm gonna say the Doctor hypnotized them, but he starts seeing reason anyway. And he decides to rebel against his own people. And it's like, "Doctor, if I rebel, will you get me a way out of this?" And he's like, "Bro, if you rebel, I'll get your whole people a way out of this." So the Meadows clone rebels. The Doctor says, but doesn't show, interestingly enough, that he's going to help them go to another planet, and he's going to give them faces, basically. So I'm guessing the TARDIS will do that. I could imagine it's something that the Time Lords database would have.
Yeah, it was faces for him to change it to.
Yeah, because I mean, like, it reminds me of, actually, I don't want to jump ahead to that. It reminds me of something that happens later on to the Second Doctor, that I could imagine that happening there.
Well, I mean, he would just be like, he could probably just like clap his hands a little bit and like throw some regeneration on them.
Yeah, just be like, "Here's some Artron energy." So yeah, so
Oh no, he doesn't start doing that until way later.
Yeah, until way later, when Stephen Moffat's like, "Oh, he'd be able to do this left, right, and centre," and Russell's like, "I totally agree." So yeah, so we get an ending story to wrap it up, where Sarah says, "Hey, look, I'm actually going to go hang out with my brother because I haven't seen him in ages," and Jamie's like, "You should come to this house because I totally want to slay you," and she's all like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that, my bruh." So she leaves, kissing him again, and I was just like, "Man, that must have been so risque for the '60s." And Ben and Polly turn up just to say it's the same day we left,
Yeah.
which means that like Gatwick Airport is in the same city right now that Wotan just attacked, right?
Yeah.
I'm so confused. How is this guy having difficulties understanding that there's aliens here when Wotan literally just took over the world for like a day?
Yeah.
I'm just like, what? What? That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, so this guy, so Ben and Polly are like, "Oh, hey, look, we're gonna head off now." And the second Doctor's like, "Oh, wow, that really sucks." And he's trying to convince them, and Ben's like, "Bro, you can't fly your ship properly. There is no way in hell I'm going to leave with you again."
Yeah, we are literally having trouble getting back here. Also, how do we get back here this time? Especially considering it's the same date. Did you fast return switch this?
He's fast returns the And then Charlie's like, "Well, at least he's written it down. Who are you? I'm a paradox." So Ben and Polly leave. It was handled better than Stephen and Dodo, definitely.
Yeah.
Because at least one of them didn't go off to see their auntie.
And then never come back.
And then never come back. But yeah, I don't know. I like the story. I don't like how they let Ben and Polly go. I was sad to see Ben and Polly go, but listening to what you said earlier, that the people of 1960s didn't really like them, and I'm inclined to believe it's Ben's bigotry, because when I watched the interview with what's her name, Anarchy Wills, who seems like a wonderful human being, she said that only Michael Craze was getting fired, who played Ben. So I'm inclined to agree with you. It's more than likely the bigotry.
Yeah, I suppose it's not. It's probably not his fault. Honestly.
Oh no, it's the writers.
Definitely the writer's fault.
Yeah.
But it's like
Shots fired. I was just like, couldn't they have just toned down the bigotry?
Yeah, couldn't they have just like maybe? Couldn't they even have just like let Ben go? Like,
yeah,
like even if it was just Ben. And
yeah. Well, because it was meant to be just Ben. And I like Polly. So seeing her go was a bit crap. But the thing is that Anarchy Wills and Michael Craze, who played Polly and Ben respectively, they went on to do the convention bracket, the first convention bracket for Doctor Who. And they really kept their characters alive through expanded material. Unfortunately, Michael died before Big Finish started recording. But Anarchy does a lot of recordings. Michael's son, I believe his name is Ben Craze, he stands in for his father with Big Finish, which is very cool.
Hold on. He named his son Ben.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's all right. That's actually awesome. I like this.
And so
Name your son the character you play in Doctor Who. That's whew.
Because Doctor Who was paying Michael Craze's bills right up until before he passed away. So he did pretty good for himself thanks to Doctor Who. But yeah, so Anarchy Wills and Michael Craze's son, they come back and play the characters respectively. I like that Big Finish never explains how these 20-year-olds now sound 70. I love that. I'm just like, you know what? No one actually cares. Let's just let them voice their characters. And so that brings us to the close of the Ben and Polly arc.
Although before we go ahead and finish this part,
Yeah,
I would like to point out that when you Google search the Faceless ones, you still get this episode, which is actually amusing because there are multiple different science fictions that have the Faceless ones appear in them. Well, at least that be one of their points.
There's actually a number of episodes actually of sci-fi called the Faceless Ones.
Yeah, not only just that, is that there is also in fantasy the Faceless ones.
Game of Thrones has the Faceless Ones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones has the Faceless ones. World of Warcraft has the Faceless ones. There is a fantastic other English, fantasy called Skullduggery Pleasant that has the Faceless ones appear as gods, and they're supposed to be the the reflection of of Cthulhu and the ancient gods,
Mm-hmm.
the old gods. There you go. So yeah, it is interesting that it's still the first thing that shows up when you search that. I am amused by that.
That's very cool. I suppose it shows the longevity and the sort of the love of the Whovian fandom, actual Whovians, I might state. So yeah, so that's beautiful actually. The Faceless ones, I definitely recommend. A lot of it is missing. However, from what I've been reading, it seems like it's going to be the first one to be restored with animation since
Yay!
BBC finished. What was it? Dad's Army. So the BBC just finished doing Dad's Army with animation reconstructions, and I think the reason behind that is because there was a movie coming out, so obviously BBC had more money to burn on it. I still don't understand why BBC isn't dedicating their time to this, because I know for a fact, even people who aren't Whovians, who are just going through the Doctor Who I'm a fan phase, will buy this.
Yeah.
They'll lap
Especially
it up.
considering we're not going to get Doctor Who for a while now, because
Yeah.
So if you
Because
start telling
reasons.
people we're going to get animated ones, then people will buy it.
Yeah, even if
People
they
like
pop
that
them on Netflix.
Yeah, they just need they need more Doctor Who fix, like we do. That's why
Yeah.
we're going back and watching.
Definitely. So if you can get your hands on the Faceless ones, for through whatever means, considering it's not on DVD, definitely go ahead and grab it. It's a good story. It unfortunately doesn't handle Ben and Polly's departure very well, but it does give them screen time at least, so that much I can respect. So with that out of the way, we are going to move on to part B, which is the Eighth Doctor story.